Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Integrity Matters by Turnitin. But this episode is slightly different. We're going to be doing a 4-part series with Professor Phillip Dawson, and we're going to be looking at having some salient conversations with regards to his book, Defending Assessment Security in a Digital World. I'd like Phil to introduce himself again, as he always does. Hi, Phil.
Hey, Triquati. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm Phil Dawson. I'm a professor and the Associate Director of the Centre for Research in Assessment and Digital Learning at Deakin University.
Excellent. Very excited about your book, Defending Assessment Security in a Digital World. So for this first part, we're gonna look at e-cheating, the concept of e-cheating and what that means for us academics, students, and edtech companies in general. So my very first question for those who are watching who probably don't know what that means, what is e-cheating, Phil?
All right, so I am jumping over to the ebook copy of my book because I want to get this precise. The definition that's used in the book is a pretty simple one. It's cheating that uses or is enabled by digital technology. Which sounds pretty simple, kind of catch-all. E-cheating really encompasses a whole bunch of things. So it includes things like, say, contract cheating that's facilitated by the internet, because we know that the commercial contract cheating, these websites, SA mills, etc., that sell assignments, really do rely on the internet to facilitate their business. So it includes that, but it also includes things like specialist cheating hardware and software, or even cheating in a remote proctored exam through, say, getting access to other parts of your computer that you're not supposed to have access to.
Excellent. Now, I've got this very burning question that came up while I was reading your book, and is trying to understand what the difference is between e-cheating and contract cheating. I'll give you my understanding of that, and correct me if I'm wrong. For me, contract cheating could be e-cheating if you're using technology. And in some cases where contract cheating does not involve technology, it is just contract cheating on its own. So I want you to elaborate on what e-cheating is, what the difference is between e-cheating and contracting, or maybe talk about the similarities as well. Most importantly, how does this relate to relate or impact academic integrity?
Yeah, so I mean, we know that most contract cheating is not commercial contract cheating. So most contract cheating doesn't involve the use of a contract cheating website or anything like that. Most contract cheating is friends and family, that sort of cheating. So a lot of contract cheating is not e-cheating at all. But there certainly is an overlap when it comes to those contract cheating websites, and those are very aggressive in their marketing to students, so they're a big part of the problem. But there's also a bunch of e-cheating that doesn't involve, paying somebody to complete a piece of assessed work for you. So that might include, say, the use of an auto-paraphrase tool, these tools where you can copy-paste from a source you want to copy from into one of those. It will paraphrase the text for you, and then you copy that into your assignment. And people claim that text matching tools won't spot it if you do that sort of thing. So that's an example of some e-cheating that's not contract cheating, that doesn't even involve another person. And things like automated algebra solvers, where you put your maths question online, or you use an app like PhotoMath to take a photo of it and then it solves it for you. That's also some e-cheating that doesn't involve an arrangement with another person. As far as promoting academic integrity goes, well, it's really important that students know that there's this thing called contract cheating, what the parameters are around that, but also really importantly, what the parameters are around these other things. I don't think we're very clear with students that, say, the use of computer algebra solver tools is okay in some contexts and not okay in other contexts. I don't think we're very clear on the use of automated translation tools or automated paraphrase tools. When are these okay? When are these not okay? So I think part of academic integrity is promoting student awareness of these and when they're okay and not okay.
Nicely said. Curious to know, I know we've set the stage about what e-cheating is, how this impacts academic integrity, but I'm also curious to know, why did you embark on research around e-cheating? What sparked that desire to go that way?
So my initial work in this area was really sparked by a demonstration by an online exams vendor. And the online exams vendor kind of claimed that their tools were sort of cheat proof. And it was very obvious to me sitting in the audience in this presentation that they were not cheat proof as was claimed. And I raised this with them and they said, no, 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 that's ridiculous. Anyone who tried the things you're suggesting would be just, some sort of elite hacker type person or something. Now, I'm in no way an elite hacker, but I went and tried the things and was able to cheat in that way. And it really got me thinking, if I, as just some academic in education, I do have a cybersecurity degree, but I'm not some expert hacker. If I can do this, maybe there's more to this. So I went out and looked, and if you delve into sort of the undercurrents of the web around cheating, you find there's a lot more to it than sort of is out there. So there was a lot of research at the time I was writing the book. There was a lot of research around things like contract cheating, but really not much about other uses of technology for cheating. I'm also a bit of a video game player, and I know in video games there's a ton of cheating that goes on where people use sort of various hacks on their computer to provide them with different advantages. And I thought, wow, I wonder if people are doing this in education as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that must have been a really good reason to go about doing this research. So now that we've established your reasons for going on this journey, as well as the concept of e-cheating and its impact on academic integrity, as an awareness piece, how might institutions begin to what may they begin to do to tackle this idea or concept of e-cheating in their institutions?
Yeah, so I think a really important first step is for us as educators to have some serious conversations about what's okay and when is it okay. I think at the moment, so in the book I talk about a thing called cognitive offloading, which is about things that people usually do, and is it okay to get machines to do some of that stuff? And in the space of sort of assessment and teaching and learning, we're not really clear on when it is okay and isn't okay to do things. So I think we need an important conversation between educators and technologists and all sorts of people about what's okay, what's not okay in that space. In addition to that, we need to have that conversation with students. So we need to talk with them, really educate them, let them know that we know what's going on. I think there's sometimes this sort of view that maybe educators don't know about all of these different cheating approaches. Sure. So we need that conversation as well.
Good. All right. I think that's an awareness piece, and that would go a long way to actually help people understand e-cheating and understand how that impacts learning overall, and what students and academics need to do to ensure that we're still upholding integrity in the work we do. I'm moving on to my most exciting bit, and I'm sure you're going to be elaborating more on this, is the e-cheating life cycle. Can you talk to us about this? Just walk us through that life cycle and what that means.
Yeah, so in the book, I've got a chapter about the e-cheating life cycle. I try and tackle it in a few different ways in the book, e-cheating. And one of the ways is around sort of how does this start and then unfold all the way through. Rather than, sometimes we think of cheating as being the act of submitting a piece of cheated work, it starts earlier. So in the book, I sort of break it down into a bunch of phases. There's firstly awareness raising. And I think we can sometimes forget about this. Cheating service providers need to make students aware of the types of cheating that are available to them. So they do this through a range of different ways. Traditional advertising is one way, though a lot of advertising platforms have really clamped down on advertising cheating, which is really good. But there's also things like bots that monitor social media platforms to try and push cheating services to students who look like they're struggling, or on YouTube, some sponsored content promoting various cheating services. So there's a really big awareness raising thing that starts. You've then got the purchasing of it or the acquisition of it. How does that work? I think it's really unfortunate that at the moment, a lot of the purchasing side of things is facilitated by big payment processing companies that may not even be aware that they're really enabling cheating, but they provide the back end that handles the payment. I'd love it if we could put some pressure on them to change their ways. They already do stop certain types of transactions. I'd love it if they stopped cheating transactions as well. But these websites, there's a whole bunch of research about different websites out there to purchase different types. Most of the research is on the contract cheating websites and how they really convince students and how a lot of them are all the same on the back end. So we've got awareness raising, we've got purchasing. We then go on to content production, because for a lot of these types of cheating, something is being produced. Students are getting a thing from you. So sadly, a lot of the content production is claimed to happen in the country the student's in, but it's usually actually overseas. There's limited research on how all of this happens, but it seems like there's a lot of fairly low-paid people out there producing a lot of work for students. We've got, after that, sort of the delivery, the submission, the after-sales care. A student gets the piece of work, or they get the cheating tool, and then they use it. At this stage, it probably crosses over into actually being cheating by most people's definitions, by a strict definition. It's pretty scary, the after-sales care side of things, and we often forget about that because in this stage of it, you've submitted your work and you think everything's okay, but then you might get hounded by the site to purchase more assignments. Research assistant in our research centre had that happen to him quite a lot. He had to change his phone number that he had listed online because he kept on getting too many calls. And then, sadly, research is now finding that it can end up in extortion. These sites extorting you for more money, or else they're going to tell your institution or your employer that you cheated. So it's a whole big, long life cycle.
Wow. Yeah, I actually found it really fascinating while reading it. And I think the big piece I want to actually touch on in this vidcast is how can we begin to disrupt the e-cheating life cycle? Have you got any thoughts on that? I know you shared that, but it'd be good to get your thoughts in a live form of how we can begin to disrupt the life cycle.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned a thing about targeting payments processors and even advertising platforms. I think we as educators can hopefully assemble a bit of a critical mass to go after these and say, hey, you are enabling cheating. You may not know it, but you're enabling cheating. Even if it's against your terms and conditions, it's still happening. So we need to do that, because I think we need to disrupt the commercial side of things. But we also need to get students, before they get to hearing about this cheating stuff and making a purchase. So we need to get them at that first stage, the awareness raising that the cheating sites do. We need to do more than they do. We need to do better than they do to get students to be aware of what this stuff is, that it is cheating, that in a lot of cases they will get found out for using this. So we need to do the positive academic integrity approach. We also need to look at the types of tasks that we use and the types of cheating that's out there, and question if maybe we can circumvent the whole life cycle by getting rid of some of the opportunities to cheat. So if we take, say, cheating in an exam situation through sneaking notes in there's a bunch of cheating tools around, sneaking notes into an exam. Well, if we make it so that the exam doesn't matter if you've got your notes, say by making it open book, we again disrupt the potential for e-cheating there.
There's several strategies that you've shared there, and I think those are the first steps for us institutions, educators, in to disrupt the life cycle. I was, while reading your book, you were referring to a lot of games and cybersecurity, and I thought I'll ask a question around e-cheating and games. Unknowing that you're a gamer, of course. So what lessons have we learned from e-cheating in games and gambling that we may consider while we're thinking about assessment? Now, when I'm thinking about assessments in this context, I'm looking at assessment that might involve some level of gamification.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing that we can learn from cheating in games and gambling and those sort of industries is that they devote a lot more of their budget to addressing cheating than we do, and they still haven't completely solved the problem. So my biggest lesson I've learned from it is that we probably aren't ever going to solve cheating. We won't ever completely fix it, but we can still do a lot to affect it. So that's one thing. Another thing is that we should probably look to how cheating happens in games and gambling for what our potential future in cheating in education might look like, because it seems like they're always a few years ahead of us, people that cheat in games. So I think we're likely to see in the future some special cheating software for things like online exams come through. And I think we need to be aware of that. We need to anticipate it, because that sort of thing is huge in cheating in games and gambling.
Wow. Oof. Technology as we know it. It's gonna be. I think these concepts and these ideas and technologies are going to actually change the face of academic integrity as a whole. And I think we really need to be ready for this. I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed the book, is because it's painting a picture of a future challenge. But if we start thinking about it now, we might be able to, like you said, we might not get everything right. We might not be able to eradicate it, if that's the right word, but we may be able to start thinking differently about how we do assessments and working towards disrupting the e-cheating life cycle. I have one of my favorite phrases in the book. It's students don't just find e-cheating finds students. What does this mean?
Yeah, so I think it's easy for us to think that someone that cheats starts out wanting to cheat, and then they go and find cheating, and that's how it happens. But I think that certainly does happen sometimes. But there are just so many ways that companies that provide cheating try and get to students. I mentioned things like social media before, but even if you Google help with my essay, or even if you Google some referencing formats, some of the top hits for those are cheating websites.
Wow.
These services aggressively push to students. So we need to change our thinking. It's not going to be that some sort of bad student goes and finds a cheating service. It's going to be that any old type of student stumbles across it, and maybe in that moment of weakness, they use it.
Wow. Oof. Okay. There's a lot coming at us this year. So just to wrap up today's, which is one of 4-part series, what are some basic practices educators can take into consideration when looking to secure assessment from e-cheating?
I think the biggest first step we can do is to just try and be aware of what's out there. Things have changed. They might have changed a lot since you were in university. I remember when I was in university doing my undergraduate degree, even the use of any of Turnitin's products was not something I'd ever even heard of. I never encountered them at all. So back then, we had real concerns about copy-paste plagiarism, and that was the big scary thing. Things have changed so much, and they will continue to change. And I think they'll change at probably a rapid rate. So I think things like staying connected with this series, Integrity Matters, following some key people on Twitter if that's your thing, just trying to stay up to date on what's currently happening will help you to know, gee, something doesn't seem quite right here. I think it might be, use of an auto paraphrase tool, or I think it might be outsourcing to a contract cheating site or something like that. And I think really community really helps as well. We've got to talk with each other about this sort of thing. And most importantly, we have to talk with students about this. This is a students as partners opportunity here. This isn't us telling them not to do the wrong thing. This is a true dialogue that we want to have with students.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on this first of 4-part series looking at promoting your book on defending assessments in a digital world, defending assessment security in a digital world. For this first part series, we've actually looked at Echeating, and you've been able to share some really valuable insights that will begin to spark conversations on how we approach assessment, think about academic integrity, and also support our students with becoming citizens of integrity, like we like to call it. Have you got any final words before we say a big thank you or final thank yous?
Oh, look, just thanks so much for having me on here. And if people are interested in the book, your library may already have a copy of it. So try and see if you can get the ebook copy through your library, because it's a pretty good ebook, this one.
Perfect. Thank you again, Phill, and we look forward to the second part. And I think we're going to be looking at assessment security we're going to go deeper in the terminology assessment security. Thank you again.
Great, thanks so much.